method. So essentially, this is where you would dock your tube. When you're doing a lumbar canal stenosis decompression, there are 4 quadrants that you have to move your tube through. This is a borrowed idea from Dr. Ranjit Krishnan. So this is your first ipsilateral superior quadrant. This is where you will dock first, do your decompression, then go to the contralateral, wound your tube to the contralateral side, decompress there, then come down to the opposite side lower quadrant and the ipsilateral lower quadrant. This is the principle I follow so that you cover all the 4 quadrants of the field you're supposed to decompress. In these 4 black dots is the area you're going to decompress in a lumbar canal stenosis decompression. So always beware where you're docking and ensure that you're seeing the sacrum, because you can still dock at the wrong level. Even just a small head high from your anesthetist while you're out for your scrub can make you dock at the L5S1 instead of the L45 level. So see that your docking is perfect where you want it to be. So certain tricks that you can use, if the L5S1 is at an angle, you can give a head high so that instead of working at that angle, you would work straighter. So it's better for your neck to use that. This is a 64-year-old lady with lumbar canal stenosis and a small right-sided herniation. She developed an L5 deficit and we took her up for a tubular decompression. Otherwise stable on her x-rays, so no fixation for this. So that's the video. I usually prefer not to magnify the field too much because that takes away the sense of proportions from you. This is 18 millimeter tube, I think, not a 18 millimeter tube. Using a very large tube for doing your decompressions can cause the facet joint and other structures to interfere with the maneuverability. So try to do it with 16 or 18 when you're doing a decompression. So orientation, this is the superior end, that is the inferior, that's the medial, and that's the lateral. I prefer to use a bayonet cautery tip to get the little creep of muscle that is there. This docking has already been shown by Vishal very nicely. This muscle, ideally remove it only after you have cauterized it. Otherwise, if it contracts beyond the size of the tube, you'll have bleeding. So that's the orientation, that's the laminar edge, and the facet is somewhere here. So edges need to be burnt rather than to be pulled or bitten with kerosene rounger. I prefer to use a drill because every time you put in a kerosene rounger, you're putting in something in an already stenosed area. So chances of having a post-op neurological symptom are higher. A bayonet drill works, or an angle drill works better, and it's clean work. So you start with the facet, a little part, a couple of millimeters of the facet joints, go right up to where the ligamentum flavum is attached at the tip. That's where you would stop your drilling. Vishal has shown it very beautifully. Then I would take a curette to separate it and get an idea of how much more I need to go in. So that's the medial aspect I'm just checking, and that's the superior aspect. Then this is a 2 mm kerosene rounger to get the last bit off from the edge. This is also where there is a herniated disc just underneath that area. But I would prefer to do the bony work before going down and taking the ligament off, because then you have the freedom of using a drill and at the same time keeping the neural elements safe. So once the bony work at this area is done, I would want to the opposite side, superior quadrant, the view I showed before, and then tilt the table to the opposite side. So this way, you are able to see more into the other side. That's the base of the spinous process, and that's the base of the spinous process that you would expose. Once it's done, you just drill through this area to go and see towards the opposite side. You have to be very, very cautious at this end. This is where a lot of complications will occur. If you drill too vigorously and into the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock position, you will end up causing a pars defect. And that would be an iatrogenic instability. So try to have the idea of how much you have tilted to the opposite side and accordingly use your drill. Don't go in the corner because that will break the pass there. Also be careful of how much you are resecting at this end because too much resection of the medial facet is going to cause problems. So this is the upper end. So I would leave a generous area of bone there because you don't want to mess along with the pars. Typically on the ipsilateral side, we try to keep about 10 millimeters of bone minimum to leave it stable. So a drill here with the protection of the ligamentum flavum can be used a little aggressively. This is a 4 millimeter size burr tip that we are using. And we should try to learn using it with one hand, like the neurosurgeons do, so that you can use your other hand to suck out the fluid so you have a better vision there. Of course, then you wax up this bleeding bone that is there superiorly.
You're using a cutting bar, Vishal?
Yeah, always
so
a cutting.
Guidelines about when you would do cutting or diamond?
I always use a
cutting
cutting
close
bar.
to the dura, you change?
So because the flavum is intact, I don't have to worry about injuring the neural structures. Second thing is, a cutting bar is much faster. I don't prefer to use a diamond bar because it takes a lot of time and the heat generated is far more. And that, in my opinion, would cause more neural damage than the chance of a cutting bar catching your dural elements. So then a 2 millimeter kerosene to open up the foramen on the other side and this loosening up the attachment of the ligamentum flavum. There is a big internet challenge of the butterfly being removed intact. You can do that, but since this is a demonstration video, that's something I would avoid, but that's what we thought we would start off with. And my fellow reminded you got to do a proper one. So you can detach it from here and then go down, detach it from below and take out the whole ligamentum flavum and block. But I would not advise that. The chances of causing a dural injury are much higher. It is much better done when you're doing it endoscopically because that offers you a better dissection potential. So that's now the opposite side lower quadrant. That's the lower end of the facet joint that's getting drilled. And here, that's the spinous process of the lower end, and this is where the facet joint of the other side would be. So you drill the superior spinous process because your lamina is like a hut roof there. So when you drill this, it gives you access to the lower end of the opposite side ligamentum flavum attachment, which will be on the upper side, unlike the superior where it's under the bone. So you drill that first, so you get to see the far corner on that side, and then you take out the base of the facet joint at the inferior area. And what you see here would be a part of the lamina on the opposite side, the superior part of the lamina. Then you can detach the flavum attachment and take it out en bloc if you want, or piecemeal, which I prefer.
Vishal, the lateral fibers of the flavum are closely adherent sometimes to the facet joint capsule. So any guidelines about how to save the capsule over here, or you can go as lateral as possible till you see the lateral part of the nerve?
So the medial part of the capsule, some part of it is going to go away. And you can dissect that. As the patient gets older, it becomes very difficult to dissect that. So then I would not worry about that side.
Also, Vishal, the lower part of the flavum being attached to the lamina below, that area usually there are some adhesions and there is a chance of dural injuries. Any points on how you prevent that and how do you dissect
So you just leave a little bit, like you can see here, after having drilled through this part, I will use a curette or a number 4 pen fill to open up, and then probably take a ballpoint and tease it and check if there is any attachment, and then take a kerosene to take it out. So that's as you would do for standard, you have to release and then cut the flavum. Now I'll just go back for a minute because, so that's the opposite side. I'm using this to separate the flaval attachments. This is the inferior part. This is the inferior attachment of the flavum to the superior part of the inferior lamina. Yeah. So then once the bony work is done, you can just pick the flavum off. It will be, of course, adherent, you use a ballpoint to release as much as you can, and use a very sharp kerosene so you don't have to pull. It bites rather than you having to pull. You pull and it's disaster. So then, once this is done, I've gone back to the upper quadrant to then remove the ligamentum flavum because I've detached it from below and it's detached from the superior part. So this is what needs to come out. So this is a very important tool. What I'm using is a 2.5 millimeter thick ballpoint. So if this can go in easily, I tried using forceps to hold, but that day the forceps was quite inadequate, so we ended up using a pituitary to hold on to this flavum and then take it out. So this curette can go in and you can actually peel it off. I think, Rajesh, this will address your question also. You can peel this off with a sharp curette and it comes off even the capsule. But there will be a part that is going and investing into the capsular structure. So that is the part which you'll have to cut sharply or burn. So that's the lateralmost attachment of the flavum that I'm trying to take out. So this also, the sharp part of the curette detaches it, and the blunt part doesn't hurt the dural structures. That's why a 3/0 lumbar curette is your best friend, preferably a bayoneted one, to clear up adhesions and to make way. And then this is a 3 mm kerosene rounder. I use a separate kerosene for doing soft tissue work, and the blunt ones we keep for bony work, because ideally kerosene should be used for flaval removal because it's a sharp cutting instrument. If it is blunt, you have to pull on the flavum, and that's when the tears will happen. So that's the opposite side upper quadrant, which is completely decompressed. Then I'm coming down to the lower quadrant here now. So try and keep the flavum on this side so that it keeps the dural sac a little away and you can work in the corner. Because if you take this side first, you're going to have the dural sac popping up and it may come in your way if it's not adequately decompressed on the other side. And then you'll have to pull it down more to work on the contralateral side. So finish the contralateral side. Again, wanding the tube. You keep wanding the tube so to the area of your interest and finish your work. So Satyen, this is the undercutting of the superior edge of the lamina. The soft tissue here has been dissected sharply, and then whatever little fragments are remaining, I'm using a 2 millimeter upcut to get it out. My suction while doing this suction tip is a ball tipped suction, so that doesn't injure. Most of this dura is going to be very frail, and most of your suction tips, plain suction tips, when you use it along with the drill, become very sharp. So you change your suction when you're going to the opposite side. This is the same copy of the step Vishal Kundanani showed us. This is the lower edge that I'm identifying and then taking out. This is the last part I'm taking out, because once I do this, this is going to pop up. But since now entire dural sac has been decompressed, and this is the superior part, so the dural sac doesn't pop up in your view. If you do this first, decompression of the opposite side becomes a little difficult. So you should do this last. And that's the standard decompression you do to the lateral aspect. You should be able to see the lateral edge of the dural sac. That is how complete your decompression is. Usually, it's easier to see it on the opposite side because of the angulation of the microscope. And ipsilateral side is where you end up not decompressing the lateral recesses as well. So curved one would help you better. So that's the small fragment which was causing the deficit. So rather than pulling it out, it's better to release it completely and only then go in and pick it out, because if you pick up, a small fragment might come and then it would be very difficult to fish the remaining part out. So that's again the same ball point, rotating it and getting it out. This is a fairly small fragment, but because of her primary stenosis, it ended up causing a big problem. Then the anelotomy explored it and then cauterized it. So one more small fragment, just checking that nothing else is remaining, and that's it. That's the end of the procedure. You pull out your tube and end of story.